The Zone Coverage Podcast Network.
The Andy, Luke, and Arif football machine.
Autobots, transform! I like this kind of party!
Straight cash, homie.
Starts now.
Welcome back to Thunderdome for another Zone Coverage Football Machine, Zone Coverage Podcast Network. I'm your not so unblows, Andy Carlson, at Andy Carlson Show on the Troy Machine, and I have actually more active than Yanka just dumped on those 2 weeks of acting classes in a strip mall.
No, I felt it was fairly beneficial, so
Fine.
I reject that premise.
Fine.
I reject that.
Arif being the most athletic guy at the Sports Analytics Conference.
I'll take that.
I definitely was not.
There's some jacked fellas.
There's some jacked fellas there, dude.
Eric Eager, former Pride tight end of the Bemidji Beavers.
Yeah, Eric could probably out-athlete me.
Does anyone get upset about an analytic and just rip off their shirt? And they're like, let's go, baby.
Where does Eric live?
Simpsons? Willie?
Nope.
Yeah, really.
Get that.
UW.
Yeah, that was good.
I don't
was
know
good.
if I'm allowed to disclose that he's moving.
What?
Who is? But he's not in
Into
Minnesota.
Reef's house.
Yeah, he's not in Minnesota. He lived in Wisconsin.
Where's he moving?
A Reef's basement.
Is he going to a different school?
House?
This seems like an off-air conversation. I'll bring it up later.
Yeah.
There we go. Join me, as always, full house. We got Arif. We got Saxy Princeau.
Yeah, man.
And we got Luke. We got Tom.
So
What's going on?
sexy.
We got hour two. We got some phone lines that'll be open up here in a sec. But, Arif, what did you learn from the analytics conference? What is this will be Arif's analytic for the week.
I took in a lot of conversations. I learned a little bit more about baseball and stuff, but I was able to watch Eric's talk actually on the way Pro Football Focus is handling the quarterback data, the way that they're clustering quarterbacks into play styles as well as scheme styles for the offensive coordinators. So Kyle Shanahan quarterbacks, for example, have shown a remarkable consistency across all of the different teams that he's quarterback for in terms of the kind of routes that they throw, how far back their drop back is, how quickly they get rid of the ball and stuff like that, and what that'll tell us for say Jimmy Garoppolo's style of play. They'll probably get rid of the ball pretty quickly. For example, they'll probably throw
To Jerick
outs and
McKinnon
stuff
on
like
dump
that.
off, and then he goes to the house.
Yeah, get him in fantasy.
Yeah.
But yeah. I learned a lot from that talk. I'll be writing a piece on it. But what's really cool is that what PFF found is that you take a look at these quarterback styles and they stay consistent from season to season unless you get a coordinator who himself is remarkably consistent, like Kyle Shanahan. And then, maybe push comes to shove or something like that. And I think we saw that with Sam Bradford, who was one kind of quarterback until Pat Shurmur took over, and then he was a little bit more aggressive. So I'm kind of still absorbing everything I've learned from that, but I think it's really cool that you can kind of group these quarterbacks into these categories, and then figure out which categories kind of best help you win. For example, type 2 quarterbacks, for example, are very safe. They avoid interceptions, but maybe at the cost of throwing touchdowns. Type 3 quarterbacks are the opposite.
Yep.
Type 3 quarterbacks were very risky, more likely to help you win a Super Bowl, but Type 2 quarterbacks more likely to help you have a winning season, which I think is kind of cool.
Jay Cutler was a Type 1 quarterback.
Type 1 quarterbacks are like...
That was a diabetes joke, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
We got to call it.
Hey, caller, who we got there?
Yeah.
First time, long time. This is Jacob in Farmington.
Hey, Jacob.
Farmtown, baby.
What's going on, man?
Let's go.
Luke.
Just kind of hanging
Mike
out,
is
watching
so
a little bit
hot.
of Boardwalk Empire.
Hey, that was a great show.
It is a great show. So anyway, I was going to ask you guys, I was thinking today, what do you guys think is Green Bay's ceiling this year? Like, with the changes they've made on personnel and on the roster? Like, if Aaron Rodgers starts off to like a MVP type like season, kind of like how he started last year, do you think that that'd be enough to take their roster kind of sail past the Vikings this year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially because they've got Mike Pettin at defensive coordinator. Because, I mean, you take a look at that defense, and I think we've all kind of agreed that they have a lot of talent at a lot of positions, but Dom Capers was never able to put it together to form a coherent defense. I think Pettin has a good track record, at least as a coordinator, of putting together really coherent defenses.
Never had a defense outside the top 10.
Yeah. So I think that defense can be really good, and of course you've got Aaron Rodgers on the other side. In terms of their ceiling, I think their ceiling, which is kind of a dangerous term to throw around.
Say it, dude.
It's the Super Bowl.
It's the Super
They're
Bowl.
going to win,
Yeah.
right?
It's
like
the
if
Super
they
Bowl.
hit their ceiling.
For sure. I mean, you look at Muhammad Wilkerson in free agency. What a great draft. Jair Alexander and Josh Jackson to go in with first-round pick last year. Kevin King, Josh Jones, Clinton Dix. I mean, they got a lot of players now all of a sudden on defense.
Exciting secondary.
But it's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, don't let last year fool you and think that, just because he didn't play because he was hurt, that he's going to be, and hey, he might be a little rusty, but it's still Aaron Rodgers. I mean, when he's on, when he's on, there's nobody better.
And you can say
nobody better.
And you can probably say that
he's in our division.
The Packers are better than most divisions' third place teams. Like, you could probably pretty easily say that.
Sure.
Which, I mean, that'll likely be 2 victories that they have, and they'll probably split a couple games within the division.
Yeah.
And
tough division here, man.
AFC, East? Where are we playing this year?
Yeah.
AFC East. Really not that great of a division outside of
the one team.
Patriots.
Yeah,
so,
the one team, yeah.
So they're going to be competitive and whatnot. So yeah, I definitely see them getting closer to that ceiling than I do that floor for sure.
What if Rodgers goes down? Like, what sort of
they're over. They're over.
Now, is it Kaiser or Hundley?
It would be Hundley.
I hope it's Kaiser, man. Not even.
It would be
it'd
be Hundley because I do really believe that they want Kaiser to be their future.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
I like that the Browns just gave the Packers like a second-round quarterback for a song, and also the Saints were like, "Hey, do you want a first-round pick next year and also still get your guys? Whatever, just hand it over."
They got Jimmy Graham too. Even I'm like, whatever. I immediately regretted saying that.
Hey, Jacob, thanks for calling in.
Thanks, Jacob. Appreciate it, man. Here you go.
One more.
Hey, caller, we got
Hey, it's Alex in Baroka.
Alex Varoka. What's going on?
Oh, nothing. The power's out, so I'm like in the back corner of my yard in the one spot where I get somewhat decent signal.
Oh, so the power's also out for like your most local cell tower too?
Yeah, basically.
Oh, that's rough.
It's what you get for living in Wisconsin, Alex. You got rolling blackouts all the time. Just like the Packers in the late 80s because they couldn't sell out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, he just takes it. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. What's on your mind?
What? Yeah, whatever.
Should we send MREs and bottled water?
So as far as I'm not going to ask if you think it would happen, but I'm curious to know if you think it should happen with guys like Everson Griffin last season, who completely tore their plantar fascia or whatever. And as far as I can remember, his snap count really didn't drop off at all. Do you think? And I'll take it. I'll ask this in two different ways. So, do you think that coaches should be more willing to take guys who, even if they can step on, like Everson clearly lost a step after that injury, and that's totally understandable. But do you think coaches should be more willing to reduce playing time, or even just demote a guy altogether and say, look, glad you're willing to push through this, but you're just not as effective. Like, I don't know. So if after the Cleveland game, when it comes to Everson, do you think like a combination of Weatherly and Bauer have ultimately been more productive than how? Because I mean that plantar fascia wasn't going to heal in that amount of time.
Right.
So even if
he was at where he was at. I mean, it wasn't going to get any better. It wasn't going to magically heal. He was kind of plateaued, so to speak. I mean, from a recovery standpoint, right?
Right. Well, I mean, like even just like a performance. Did you think that like Weatherly and Bauer would they impact the game more than Everson would have? And I mean, like, so for like a guy like Xavier Rhodes, like he was always hobbling off the field last year. Is it better to trot him out there every week and like wait for him to? I mean, how much better, how much healthier do you get?
I think Andy,
playing football once a week.
I think Andy should.
Do you benefit the team by letting Xavier heal up for a whole 3 weeks before throwing him back out there?
Well, we'll go with Everson. So as the season was winding down last year, like right after the Cleveland game, right after the bye, Everson was still playing like.
Yeah,
Everson was still playing like 90% of his snaps. We should trade him. But also, like the last 2 weeks of the year, at Green Bay and Chicago at home, where they're essentially just jockeying for playoff position. Like Everson was still playing 74% of the snaps against Green Bay and 87 against the Bears, which is still, if you got a guy you want ready for the playoffs, the game doesn't matter against Chicago for all intents and purposes. Well, no. They're still working for the bye. But Everson, after he got that game solid away, still playing like 87% of the snaps. Why?
Yeah, I think you know the answer to your question, because this is kind of like a comment disguised as a question, right? We all agree with you. I think that you're right, and the research I think backs it up too. Like especially at the wide receiver position, we don't talk about it a ton, but people who've done fantasy research have found that position by position, wide receivers drop off the most when they're on the injury report than when they're not. And, we see that kind of anecdotally with Stephon Diggs. And I think that makes a lot of sense on the defensive side of the ball, too, especially at a position where athleticism correlates so strongly to success. It kind of makes sense that an injury would hamper you, I think, more than most. So, I think that coaches should definitely be more willing to do that. I mean, we saw that Everson got 10 sacks before and during the Cleveland game, and 3 sacks afterwards. And some of that is due to variance. I mean, he wasn't going to continue his sack streak forever, but I mean, we all know that a lot of it has to do with the fact that he just wasn't as effective of a football player. We're speaking with a little bit of hindsight, so we do have the ability to just be right about it. But yeah, but I think that's true. I think that coaches should be more willing to, and it's not even about like it gives players more time to recover and stuff like that. I think there's just like a fear of missing out sort of thing. Like how many sacks would Everson have gotten if we'd put him in there for 30 snaps instead of 15 or whatever, right?
Right.
And I think that guiding a lot of things. I mean, that's kind of like why Jordy Nelson's probably going to get overdrafted in fantasy this year. I mean, it's like a fear of missing out sort of thing. Yeah, I think coaches should be more willing to, but like it's easy to talk about it abstractly, but when it comes game time, you're like, it's 3rd and long. I'm not going to take Everson Griffin out for
Hey, Tayshaun, get out there. Just play like they did in the preseason.
But I mean, they should just definitely be more willing to do it. And the positions that it probably makes the most sense for are defensive end and wide receiver. And because it makes sense for wide receiver, maybe for cornerback, but I think that's actually not as true, even though you think of them as analogous positions. But yeah.
Sure. I think really the only position where, it's like Matt Kalele had that hip issue for the longest time, and
that's what it was.
I think you can make the argument. Well, he was just bad in general, but like with the hip issue, it just got even worse. I think the only position you can safely say that no, you're going to ride them out even if they're a little banged up is with quarterback.
Yeah, and it depends, right? Like if it's a shoulder, but
sure,
yeah, you're right.
But with Drew Brees had that. It was another plantar fascia thing, wasn't it? Where it's like even if he can barely put weight on that one foot, he's still probably better than Luke McCown. But for a guy like Everson Griffin, you're putting so much weight on that foot driving forward, and this is with the thing with injuries. If you blow out a hamstring or something, one it hurts like hell. It is partially a pain tolerance thing. But I don't know if you've ever blown out a hamstring before, but like your leg just doesn't work. So every time, like in fantasy, where someone's got a hamstring issue, like I just always bench them. And half the time it doesn't pan out for me. But your leg just doesn't function the way. Like even if you're trying to, it doesn't seem to. I don't know. It almost feels like a nerve thing. Speaking of fantasy, you guys, your line's still empty?
Or what?
He's asking
You're,
if we've got a
you're
pending
lying.
call, so he can ask.
I don't want to hold anyone.
We got one more caller here.
Okay, I'll let you guys go. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Survive the rapture, Alex. Or whatever's going on down there.
I think the next caller's up.
Hey, caller, we got.
Tom Minsky from Fargo.
Hey,
Hey, Tom.
What's going on?
Too many times on this line, but
Yeah.
fire away.
Hi.
Hey, what's on
No,
your
I
mind,
was
good Tom?
just tweeting there with Yinka, and I wasn't too sure. It was for a question. I was like, who plays fantasy football?
We all do.
Yeah.
All right. League recommendations. Do you guys do Dynasty? Do you do redraft? Do you do keepers?
I
What
do
kind of
all of
setups
them.
everybody like?
I do dynasties, redrafts,
Auction.
PPR, and
Auction.
PPR.
Gotta go
I've
auction.
done
Auction.
auction.
Everybody's team auction here?
Best ball is a ton of fun.
Head to head?
It really, I think it kind of depends on sort of, what you're looking for in a fantasy team. Like, I think if you want to recreate the experience of like managing a football team, then I think a redraft league where it's a snake style draft is fun. But I think if you kind of want to ride the waves a little bit, then best ball is the best.
Dynasty leagues are really fun too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on what you're looking for. But
I like the sort
I
of
love 'em
mix. So I'm in a 3-keeper league, and I have Kareem Hunt and Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson. So I like that league.
Nice.
Also, I'm a little worried that I'm going to kill it with my dominance, but that's okay. Tom, how about you?
I'm in a Dynasty league, and then I do one redraft league every year. Dynasty's pretty cool. That's got an auction value of $150 salary cap. And then you do a top 50 auction every off season, and then you do a snake draft following. And then immediately after the season ends, even before the draft, that's when we do our rookie draft picks.
Wow. Fun.
I like-
a lot going on.
So you're not drafting high school kids.
And it's
nothing like
multiple
that, but-
drafts, too, which is like the funnest part of the whole thing.
Yep.
Right.
All right. Hey,
So, yeah, I just followed you guys for a while on Twitter. Just wasn't too sure on who kind of tweets out fantasy football too much.
I'll definitely be tweeting out a lot of good fantasy info here in the next upcoming months. So
he's
stay
definitely
tuned.
going to be tweeting out fantasy info. I guess I don't know if it's good.
Yeah, no, that's true. Buyer beware.
hey, Tom.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, appreciate you calling in.
Yeah,
man.
thanks for calling in, Tom.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Hey, yeah, call that guy back.
202. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here he is. Here he is.
Hey,
I think
caller.
we finally got him on the line.
Oh, no.
No, you better. Maybe it's a different guy.
Hey,
Is that Randy?
Who we got?
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Wyatt from Texas.
What?
Very good.
You want to hang up and try it again? You want to do it all over? Let's try that again.
You want me
Call
to?
back.
I mean, I
No.
can.
No, that was perfect.
And why? First off, we never talked about this, but since you're Texas, what's your stance on brisket?
Since I'm what? Say that again?
Since you're from Texas.
What's your stance on brisket?
Oh, it is good.
All right.
Good stance.
There we go.
Stance.
What
That's all
are
you
the
need.
clarifying statements you're looking for here?
Do you like the flat? Do you like the point? What do you like?
Man, I'm not a brisket connoisseur. I know I'm from Texas, and I probably should be, and everyone listening from Texas is probably like, that son of a bitch. But, I mean, I really couldn't tell you. I just like brisket. It is good.
All right. What's on your mind now, man?
Man, so, obviously, I'm sure y'all talked about the new hunter getting some money. They paid him. So what does that leave our salary cap at? Do you guys know? I'm
12.5 million.
Oh wow, Yankee
So they
County on the spot.
Yeah,
12 and a
12.5.
half?
Yeah, 12.5 million is what our cap is right now.
So signing Anthony Barr and Stephon Diggs, how on earth? I mean, how do we do it?
Pen, paper, legalese.
Another person will need to get restructured. Maybe Kyle Rudolph. I don't see Sendejo getting restructured. Maybe he could though. Yeah, those are the only ways that I see it happening.
Yeah. Or what about the what about the Nick Easton extension? Huh? Let's talk about the real important things here.
Nick Easton.
The brisket of the line.
There he is. Burnt ends. Literally.
No, it's all right. We'll just franchise it.
So I guess that means if you're picking between Stephon Diggs and Anthony Barr, do you go with Diggs?
Gotta go Diggs.
Absolutely.
Gotta go Diggs.
Diggs is way more important to the Vikings' future.
But see, and that's what I felt like too. I mean, and it's hard to say because Anthony Barr, I mean, he has really great flashes, but I still feel like his production could be replaced.
We'll just sign Michael Kendricks
fairly easily.
Could be a free agent next year.
I think the biggest issue with
go ahead.
I think the biggest issue with the Anthony Barr thing is I know Anthony Barr wants to put his hand in the dirt because he also wants to get paid like a defensive end. He's not going to get paid very much as an outside linebacker, even if he is kind of a central piece to Mike Zimmer's defense. Now, we haven't really seen what that's going to look like, so I guess we have to wait until this year. If Mike Zimmer decides to use him more on the line, a little bit more so, then he can push a little bit more so for that bigger contract extension. But right now, of the two between him and Stephon Diggs, he's definitely way more expendable.
I don't know that he's more... So I kind of disagree with everyone here. I don't know that he's more expendable. I think it is more likely that Stephon Diggs is going to return you value for money. I think that the Vikings are more likely to get a player who's going to play above his contract if they re-sign Diggs than if they re-sign Barr. But the thing is that, and I've been saying this for a while, it's kind of like a on refrain for me, is that I think that Barr is much more important to the design of that defense, even if he's not individually playing all that well, whereas Diggs is not important to the design of the offense, and I think it's a lot easier to find a good receiver than it is a good linebacker. The problem is like how much extra are you willing to pay on that scarcity? How much extra are you willing to pay on sort of the exclusivity you get from Anthony Barr's skill set versus the likelihood that he's not going to return complete value for what he does in terms of production. So I think his production maybe is a little bit more replaceable. You're going to have to pay more than you want, I think, for him than you are with Diggs. But I don't know that you can run a lot of the similar stuff that you do on defense, and so you kind of have to ask the question is how much of that stuff is still valuable as the defense is constantly evolving and the scheme is different every time. Is it as valuable as it used to be? And I'm kind of on the fence on all of that. Like, I think it's probably going to be a little bit easier to find a Stephon Diggs than it is in Anthony Barr, even though Stephon Diggs is, kind of a top-level receiver. Does that all make sense?
Right. And I get that because, you look at Anthony Barr, the guy's 6'5", and I forget his 40 time, but he's pretty quick for
like
his position. And they like to run the double A-gap pressure. And then so those guys have got to basically haul ass back there in zone, and that takes a lot of athleticism and skill. And when you're 6'5", it just makes it even easier, especially when you're in coverage. But, with Stephon Diggs, it's like, man, he's one of the best route runners in the NFL. I stand by that statement. I probably couldn't name you 4 guys better at route running than Stephon Diggs. So if you lose Stephon Diggs, you're left with Adam Thielen, Kendall Wright, Laquan Treadwell.
The wide receiver group drops off a lot, and considering who we have at quarterback, Kirk Cousins, you do want to surround him with enough weapons where he can play towards that ceiling that you saw in 2016 season that he really was performing like a top 10 quarterback. So taking away Stephon Diggs will hurt a lot of that production. And then, there's always a chance that, Adam Thielen goes down, and then what are you left with at the wide receiver
Brandon
position?
Zylstra steps up.
Right. Well, I think
could you see a trade of Kyle Rudolph just flat out traded to open up cap space?
Who's taking on that contract, though?
Packers.
The Cowboys?
Straight up for Tyron Smith?
Cowboys lost tight end. They're big on
Throwing
the tight end. Go ahead. You got him. Take him. It's all yours.
Nah, I think it's funny that...
What is the cap space against the books? Do y'all know?
I feel like Andy should know this intimately. What is cap space?
I think it's funny that Cousins, by using Diggs, could price him out of keeping him in future years.
That is kind of...
if it blows up this year. It's all right. We're getting Jamison Crowder next year. Don't worry about Wyatt.
Right. I think in terms of on the roster, players on the roster right now, losing Diggs would hurt more. But I think in terms of the ability to acquire a new guy either in the draft or in free agency, it'll be easier to find a Diggs. But the receiver depth right now is just garbage.
So you think the whoever gets, their extension, whether it be Diggs or Barr, do you think that happens before minicamp? Do you think that happens like in the next couple weeks? Or
boy, I hope so. I don't know if I can push my luck. I mean, I don't think I would put money on that just because, they just got Hunter done to be able to put the full court press now and move straight to another guy and be able to get that done. Right. I know they're going to try. I mean, we all know that that's their MO, but to be able to do that again, that'd be really impressive. They might be able to do it, but I wouldn't put my money on it.
I bet one gets done.
Think so?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd have to imagine, like I said, and this has been my biggest fear, is that Diggs goes out and has a crazy good year. I mean, the best year of his career, and then his price jumps $3-4 million a year. And then it's like, well, then now he's probably the odd man out. I mean, because that price fluctuation, just that extra $3-4 million you pay him a year, could be the difference. And whether you're keeping Barr or Diggs, and their camp just can't come to a negotiation, can't come to a price. So it really would be nice to see Diggs go ahead and get signed. And then what happens with Anthony Barr happens to Anthony Barr. I would say I'd love to keep him, but I just don't. Number-wise, somebody's got to go. Someone's got to restructure. And, because then essentially we lose Trey Waynes and Anthony Barr, which I know, Trey Waynes gets a lot of heat, but that's 2 losses to your starters. I mean, so that defense could look a little bit different. And then Sheldon Richardson would probably leave too. I mean, I don't know. It's almost kind of scaring me. Like, I love the Daniil Hunter. I think out of 3, he was the most important to get done because of his age. But it's definitely scary to think about to lose Anthony Barr and Trey Waynes in the same year.
They should have just drafted Christian Kirk.
Hey, I'm for that. That's okay. A&M guy, extremely
right?
smart.
A&M boy,
and Kenny Hill too. He can be. Yeah, he'd be fine. Yep.
Dude, Kenny Trill Hill. Listen, that's a loaded roster. We're good.
Hey, Wyatt, appreciate you calling in, there, man.
All right, we'll holler at y'all later.
See you.
All right. We missed Randy again.
Did we miss
Randy? Yeah, I think I know.
No, call him.
All right, I'll call Randy.
First outgoing call.
We know we've tried this before and it didn't go over great.
No, we did all the time with Declan when
did we?
The teacher was gone and kids could play.
That's amazing.
I actually hope this is a telemarketer.
I hope this is the right guy.
I thought it was going to.
Dun, 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 dun,
Hello. Randy!
Jesus.
What's going on?
What's going on, brother? Hey, dude, why don't you try calling?
Hey, I don't know. I figured I got blacklisted. I know my number looks like a telemarketing number and all that good stuff.
We made that joke. Yep, we made that joke.
What's going on, guys? What are we talking about today? Are we talking about Daniil Hunter's fat check that he just got?
Yeah, we've been talking about it a bit. Some people are talking about who we got to lose, normal stuff.
No, Daniil needs to take us all to Sizzler.
I mean,
Benihana's?
Well,
yeah.
And the thing is now, so my thing is, I mean, you've got these pending free agents coming up this offseason. I think Rick Spielman, even though I criticized him in the draft for not addressing the right guard position, we're doing, I guess, musical chairs with the offensive line again, but whatever. But he's done a very good job addressing these pending free agents. You've already got 2 down with Eric Kendricks and now Daniil Hunter. And at first, quite honestly, and not to say that I didn't believe in Daniil Hunter, but, after his first year being a starter, I was like, maybe you should wait until after this upcoming season to then offer him a contract. But you know what? Zimmer knows his guys.
What, Tom, why'd you hang up on Randy?
I didn't hang up. Randy's still there.
Damn it, Tom.
No, I'm still here.
I didn't cut you off, Randy.
No good. I mean, it's all good. But, I like it. So now you just got 2. Well, not 2. You got 3 guys left. Trey Waynes, Stephon Diggs, and Anthony Barr. So I guess for me, Stephon Diggs, I don't think he's going to go for a team-friendly deal like Daniil Hunter did
or even Xavier Rhodes did. Like, imagine if Daniil Hunter played lights out after this season and then commanded like $18 million a year or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't think Stephon Diggs is going to do the same thing. So with that said, I would say go after Trey Waynes, and then you're probably going to have to end up putting the tag on Stephon Diggs, in my humble opinion.
Probably. Like, if you had to let one of them go, would it be Waynes?
No, it'd be Anthony Barr. Well, like, without even thinking twice. Trey Waynes, he is so reliable as far as, especially because quarterbacks are so afraid of roads.
Yep.
To have a guy like Waynes to be able to hold the fort down and not get dashed all the time, especially for facing all the work that he does. And I get that we have Mike Hughes too, but why not keep all three of those guys? The cornerbacks, in my opinion, are much more valuable than a guy like Anthony Barr, who could be a Von Miller type, but there's always been questions about his motor. I think Anthony Barr is replaceable. And with the three remaining guys, if you're going to keep two of them, Stephon Diggs and Trey Waynes.
Yeah, I think Barr should go somewhere where he can be like a 4-3 D end or a 3-4 outside linebacker, and just I get it. I mean, he was a D end at UCLA. He was number 9 overall pick for a reason. Just let him be him.
Yeah, let him go. Let him, go wherever he thinks he's good at. Me personally, I know this isn't a popular opinion. I would have traded him on draft night. I would have got some value for him because at the end of the day, all these other teams and everybody thinks the world of Anthony Barr. That's fantastic. But when your head coach questions your motor skills, and even Anthony Barr comes out and admits it himself, and we see it on the screen, whereas, dude, like, can you do something? Can you just show like you care once in a while? And he has the talent to do everything. But I'm like, if you're not going to bring him back after next season, you might as well get some value for him, because if he's gone, guess what? This is still one of the best defenses in the league, right? If you lose Harrison Smith or Xavier Rhodes, that changes a lot. But if Anthony Barr goes, it's all good. This is still one of the better defenses in the league. I would have traded him. I mean, at this point, they'll probably keep him and let him go, but I personally would have traded him. I would still trade him right now if I had the choice to do so.
We should trade Barr right now for Everson Griffin.
There you go. Yeah, that's
meme isn't working.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just line up Anthony Barr, have him put his fingers on the ground and rush off the edge, which wouldn't be a bad idea. Has he been misused? I don't know. But we can talk about X's and O's all we want. At the end of the day, it's about the want to, the motor, the drive, the effort. There are too many times after games where I'm like, man, what did Anthony Barr do? I don't remember seeing much of Anthony Barr. I think because we've seen that for practically his entire career, minus his rookie year, of course, I think we've seen that so many times to where it's like, even once he gets paid, look, he's going to have a lights-out year this year. You know why? Because this is a contract year, and he's got something to prove, and he's going to prove all the haters wrong and all that cliche. But you know what? Once he gets that money, can we really count on him to keep that motor running? Or he's going to be like, I'm good. I'm paid in the shade, like Carmelo Anthony. I'm good. I got nothing to worry about. That's the thing that I will worry about.
Or you say something.
I mean, I don't really like to impute like personality characteristics onto players because of on-field stuff. We know that his drive was questioned 2 years ago. Last year, I thought he actually had a pretty good year, and obviously his sophomore year was fantastic too. But most of his career has been good. There's been 1 year where he's been criticized for his effort on the field, and that's kind of behind him. I kind of don't want to think that there's still a reason to question his on-field motor or anything like that. He's a pretty good linebacker. He obviously hasn't played as well as I think it was his 2015 season, but he still played really well in 2014, 2015. He played well in 2017. So I think that you take a look at that 1 year and say that that's kind of a personality characteristic that he has. I don't think there's a ton of evidence for that. And then also from like an on-field management perspective, I would say it's easier to lose Trey Waynes because they have Mike Hughes, whereas with Anthony Barr, you don't have a linebacker that you can replace him with.
Hashtag Gideon season.
Right, yeah. I mean, you've got 2 run-stopping linebackers in Gideon, and then after a suspension is over, Kentrell Brothers. But you don't have any coverage linebackers or pass rush linebackers, or guys that can
It's
drop.
thin quick.
Unless you're
Talked
like
about that last week,
Eric Wilson, I guess.
Yeah.
So, it's not there, and then it's easier to find a cornerback in the draft or in free agency than I think it is to find a linebacker with Anthony Barr's skill set. A linebacker in general, maybe it's easier, but I think with Anthony Barr's skill set, it's a little bit more difficult. I agree that cornerbacks are more important to a defense than a linebacker, but I think that cornerback number 2 is not nearly as important, and I don't think that Waynes has been nearly as consistent. Basically, he's had 8 good games, and so I would not call him reliable either. If Wayne, what's that?
Go ahead.
It's just he's given up a ton of first downs until his final 8 games of the season, and then he held up really well. He played like one of the best cornerback 2s in the NFL, but I wouldn't say that that's reliable. I would say that he's putting himself on the path to earning that second contract, but I don't think he's there yet. Whereas Anthony Barr has showed more games of good play and impactful play than Trey Waynes has.
Well, the second half of last year, I would say, was really key for Anthony Barr because the first half, he was great. He was fantastic. Got Aaron Rodgers, did all that fun stuff. It was great. It was fantastic. And then the second half, now here's the thing. Everson Griffin, the second half, he wasn't great either, but he was injured. Like, I don't know, what was it, a toe? I forgot what the exact injury was for Everson Griffin, but you're like, okay, that's an injury, no big deal. Anthony Barr was available the entire time. The second half of the season, he was nowhere to be found, in my humble opinion. And then not only that, after I believe his second year, that's when Mike Zimmer called him out as far as his effort being questionable, as far as saying, I forgot the exact quote, saying he floats around a little bit. And then after his third year, that's when Anthony Barr admitted he needs to work on his motor, his effort on the field. And Trey Waynes, look, if you have an opposite cornerback that is virtually going to see no attacks from the opposing quarterback, and you're going to face most of the work, you're not going to be perfect. So Trey Waynes, he hasn't necessarily been perfect, but when you're facing all these targets left and right, you're going to give up some yards. I get that. And then not only that,
he gave up more yards per snap in coverage than any other cornerback in the NFL in the first half of the season. There are a ton of cornerbacks that play up against really good that have really good corners on the other side. But Waynes was up against wide receiver 2s as a result. Waynes was not playing well even after you account for the fact that Xavier Rhodes was playing as a lockdown corner, even after you account for the fact that he was targeted more often. He gave up more yards per target than any other cornerback in the NFL in the first half of the season. It wasn't that he wasn't playing perfect. He was playing really poorly, and he did turn it on the second half of the season in a really impactful way. So I'm not saying that he shouldn't be on the roster, that he's not worth re-signing, but I am saying that there's a lot of reasons to question whether or not he's actually reliable. I think there's a lot of people that say, hey, Trey Waynes, you got to cut him some slack. He's a cornerback 2. You're evaluating him against a cornerback 1, and I get that. But even after you account for that, he has been a liability. And I know that Anthony Barr's had his motor questioned, but he's only had 1 bad year, whereas Trey Waynes has had 3.5 bad years. So I
disagree. I think Anthony Barr has been coasting for most of his career. And then not only that, you mentioned as far as there are other cornerback 2s that have, shut down CB1s, and, that's no excuse. But if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Pro Football Focus or Pro Football Outsiders. I don't remember the exact agency that made this statement as far as saying, we can't really grade Xavier Rhodes. I believe it was for the first half of the season. We can't really grade Xavier Rhodes because quarterbacks don't throw to him, whereas everybody else, every other cornerback 1, we can. I think Xavier Rhodes is one of those rare cornerbacks.
I don't think I've heard that from maybe Football Outsiders. I know PFF didn't say that.
I definitely saw that link sometime in the previous season. But again, Trey Waynes, he makes plays. He does what he needs to do. I don't think he's played poor at all. And then not only that, there's no question as far as effort with Trey Waynes. We've been having you say that Anthony Barr's been doing pretty good only just that 1 year. He's had questions on back-to-back years from Mike Zimmer and himself. And then last year, the second half,
Dude,
he was god-awful.
They're talking about the same season. When Anthony Barr said, I had to work on my effort, he was talking about the 2016 season.
That was before last season started. So that was after his, third year.
Yeah, he was talking about why the 2016 season was poor, whereas Mike Zimmer, during the 2016 season, was talking about why he wasn't doing well. They're talking about the same season. So the fact that these statements come out in multiple years isn't evidence about a lack of motor in multiple years. He's played well in 3 of his 4 years. I know that you disagree. I know that you disagree, and that's just a subjective opinion, so I get that. But I find it hard to believe that there are more good snaps from Trey Waynes over the life of his contract than there are good snaps from Anthony Barr, especially because Trey Waynes was held off the field for Terrence Newman. So, and even when he was on the field, I mean, he was playing really poorly until again this year. I just think this reliability argument from Trey Waynes doesn't make a ton of sense just because we've just had more good snaps from the person you're comparing to.
Do you think Anthony Barr in the second half last year was good?
Yeah, I thought he was good. I think this argument about him disappearing is, okay. I think this argument about him disappearing is a little bit odd. He was able. His tackle production occurred at or near the line of scrimmage nearly as often the first half of the season as occurred in the second half of the season. He wasn't getting blown off blocks like he was in 2016. I thought in the second half of the season he did fine.
I thought he was very ineffective the second half of last year. Like I said, the first half of last season, he was great. He was really kicking ass out there. But the second half, there were too many games where I was sitting there saying, wow, I've seen Eric Kendricks. I know he's on the field. I know Harrison Smith is on the field. I even know Everson Griffin, for his ailment, that he's on the field. There's too many times throughout this man's career that Anthony Barr has been a question mark. And the fact that we're going to sit here and potentially lose out on, you say he's not reliable, but I tell you what, for a guy that faces the majority of targets basically all the time because they're avoiding the CB1, even where I don't remember it was Pro Football Focus or Pro Football Outsiders that said we can't affect, and I will for sure tweet you guys, whatever, I'll definitely tweet out to Andy Carlson and whatnot, whatever that article was that said, we can't effectively grade this guy because no one's throwing to him. So I think Trey Waynes has taken a lot more load than the traditional CB2 has, but the dude works at it. And if you remember, he was a little bit raw before he started working with Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer, it took a couple of years for him to get where he's at now, which I think he's been very reliable. Same with Xavier Rhodes. Xavier Rhodes was pretty good before Mike Zimmer got there, but Mike Zimmer worked with him and turned him into the shutdown corner that he is today. So I think if we're going to sit here and say, let's let Trey Waynes go, it's not a big deal, let's just draft somebody in the draft, well, who's to say that he's going to be ready, such as Mike Hughes right now? Mike Hughes, he's looking fantastic, but who's to say next year when we draft another cornerback, he's just going to pick up and be ready to go? I think you've got 3 really good cornerbacks. You don't want to let that go. Is Trey Waynes perfect? Absolutely not. But to be able to hold his own, especially with Xavier Rhodes opposite him, I think he's done a very good job. Anthony Barr, this dude, he's going to have his best season this year because this is a contract year. He's very motivated. Then after that, I think he's going to be lazy like he's been for most of his career.
1 year. If you just take a look at cover snaps per target of cornerbacks last year, Xavier Rhodes ranks 52nd. There were 51 other cornerbacks that were targeted less often than Xavier Rhodes. So I don't really get this argument that he was ungradable because he didn't get enough targets.
Oh, it's all good. We agree to disagree. I'll definitely tweet out that link.
84 targets last year.
Hey, Randy, appreciate you calling in.
Love you, Randy.
Facing the fire.
Good stuff.
Randy! Hey, take care, guys.
See you
later.
All right, let's hammer out these Twitter questions and then go eat some chicken appendages.
Yeah.
Alex lost 91. Quarterback emergency situation. You need a positional player to toss the rock. Who do you put under center?
Wait. What's the question?
For what?
You need emergency quarterback. So,
okay, yeah. So you
Cousins down.
lose both your quarterbacks.
So we don't have Jet anymore. So who is?
We don't have Jarris either.
Anthony Barr, right? I don't know. God, who's quarterback? Is Blake Bell still on the roster?
Yeah. Belldozer.
That's a good call.
I guess it'd be him, but I guess he'd have to make the
Let's just say no
roster
Bell,
first.
though. Like, you
Yeah.
just have to literally just throw a dart up on the board. Who are you rolling with?
God.
Like, you just got to throw a dart up.
Why do I feel like Kyle Rudolph?
No.
Thielen?
Harrison?
No.
Nah, it's too valuable.
I don't want to risk Harrison like that.
I don't want to put him at quarterback.
Just put Gideon back there. Who cares at that point?
Man,
like if you're down 2 quarterbacks, like you're not going to win anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
So that'd be fun. Or most of these guys probably play quarterback in high school. Put
Yeah.
Tayshaun back there.
A lot of them play
Have him actually get some snaps.
Tayshaun.
Zimmer talk. Oh, there's a rotation. Rotating.
Look at how many snaps he got.
He's calling back. Randy. Listen, you suck.
No, this guy's been trying for a while.
Hey, caller, we got.
Yeah, hi, this is Ryan from Lakeville, Minnesota.
Ryan, Lakeville. What's going on?
Woo! It's my hometown, guys.
Not much. Just saw the Hunter news come across the screen.
What do you think
just
about
got
that?
home from work.
Good value,
And,
short-term, long-term thoughts?
Yeah, with the numbers that he's given us, seems like a little bit of a stretch. That's a lot of money that we're handing out. We've got some other priorities to take care of. So if you ask me, give a guy $72 million for, not $72 million worth of production. We definitely think that he's going to be something special, and I guess we can hope that he's going to be something special.
Yeah, I get that. He definitely hasn't had sort of the sack production this year that I think a lot of people expected. But if you take a look at like the amount of pressure he produces, how good he is against the run, I think he kind of makes up for a lot of that lost value. And because he got so much pressure, I think it's kind of easy to say he'll probably produce that many sacks kind of going forward. I'm going to be writing a piece about sort of what you can expect based on contract numbers from like a pass rusher, and I think Hunter, if you take a look at sort of all of that other stuff, their ability against the run, how often they put pressure on quarterbacks, I think Hunter, kind of makes up for the lost value that you got in sacks, and I think we'll probably see a couple more sacks from him than this year, kind of going forward compared to other people that are paid a similar amount. So, but I totally get where you're coming from.
Ryan, was it?
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, right. Who would you said you probably wouldn't prioritize him. Who would you have maybe higher a priority to go re-sign? I'm assuming you maybe have a name or two in mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone obviously is talking Diggs and Barr. Diggs is first on my list. Diggs is miles ahead of Hunter. I mean, I'm not saying I don't want Hunter. But, maybe...
You pretty much said that.
And I get... No, I don't think I said that.
Verbatim. Rewind it, Tom.
It's scary to let him go to free, if you were to hit free agency after next season. That is kind of scary. But, it's kind of like the Keenum deal, You make him... Was it a fluke season, or you got to make him work for it one more season? And, that's what a lot of people wanted. But, 7.5 sacks last season just doesn't do it for me to hear the $72 million number. I mean, I completely understand what you're saying, and I saw it as well. Yeah, he got some pressure in there. But with how star-studded our defense is, you really think that should open the doors for our pass rushers, Everson and Hunter. So,
yeah, 72. Try not to get too hung up on 72 because when you break it down, it's about $14 million a year. And I think some of the top DNs in the league or pass rushers are getting that 18 to 20, 22. So honestly, I look at Spielman and Brzezinski. I think it's a pretty good value when you look at it year by year for what you could get. I understand he only had 7.5 sacks, which was certainly underwhelming. But in this defense too, there's so many mouths to feed. You seem like you know what you're talking about. You seem like an elite football mind. I just want to get your take. What do you think about the Vikings this year in general? Can I get like a record prediction from you? Or do you think they're going to regress a little bit from that 13-3 season? Or you think it's Super Bowl?
We're going to go – we're probably going to get 7 wins. 50% of me thinks we're going to get 7 wins.
Okay.
And 50% of me thinks we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Okay. So it just depends on like what guy wakes up that morning.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. No, and it's all on Kirk. We know that.
That was
if Kirk
Kurt.
can play. If Kirk can play like Keenum. If Kirk plays like Keenum did last year, we have the exact same shot that we did to get to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. So
not
if we can
at all.
get if we can get case quality from 2017 out of Kirk in 2018, and our defense shows up in the NFC Championship game, hey, we're in the Super Bowl. Welcome to it.
Did we lose him?
I think the phone line cut out.
Hello?
Nope.
Oh, we got it. We got him.
So would you have rather just re-signed Keenum? I mean, at that point, knowing the money, knowing the deal he got in Denver, knowing Kurt's deal, I mean, would you have rather just rolled with the hot hand in Case Keenum?
It's impossible. I like to say that we were forced to take Kirk, and I'm not mad.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that it was pretty much our only choice.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of one of those things. Same with similar to Bernard Berrien. It's impossible to compare directly a quarterback and a wide receiver, but when we went out and paid big money for Bernard Berrien, we desperately needed a receiver. He was the only one with talent out there, and he ended up being a fairly decent bust.
Pretty good bust. Yeah.
Kirk. Yeah. So Kirk's out there this season. We had the money. We had to have the team that he wanted to be part of. I don't think we really had any other route. As far as me personally, I would have been okay giving Case the shot, but I'm not mad that we spent the money on Kirk. If it works out for 4 or 5 seasons plus, obviously the quarterback position is the position you can take that gamble on.
You sound mad.
I'm not mad.
You sound mad.
You mad, bro?
I'm not.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for calling in, man.
So in Kirk we trust. Thank you, guys.
Kirk, hey. Say hello to your mother for me.
All right. Hammer out these last Twitter questions. Goble like Noble, Alex in Viroqua, which is the county seat of who gives a hoot county. What will the NFL look like in 50 years?
Oh, there's no NFL in 50 years.
No.
boys. I'm just kidding.
We've talked about this. Robot avatars. It's happening.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
Real steel? Come on, baby. No CTE. It's like battle bots. The Browns will still be terrible. There's to be like rusted out and stuff. Happens. Jacob Cost, if he had to retire one number league wide in the NFL, a la Gretzky and Jackie Robinson, whose number would you pick and why?
Alan Page, 88. Because duh.
No, Des Bryant, 88.
Favre.
Favy.
All right, so Jackie Robinson, important for breaking the color barrier. Wayne Gretzky was important because he was good.
I mean,
That
like,
it?
way better than and
he was probably better at hockey than Michael Jordan or LeBron James were at basketball.
yeah,
Like, it's
and the whole
insane
thing
how-
going to LA. There was
Brady, 12, Montana, 16.
I don't like
Nah.
either of those as like perma retires.
It's tough to find like one like completely like elite above the rim player. I mean, like even Bruce Smith has 200 sacks. Like he wants to retire 78, even though it's an O lineman number. But that's actually they should, just so no other DN wears that stupid number.
what if they do like 103? Like,
Oh no,
Hang 103.
retired 00 Otto Graham.
yeah.
Oh, I like
Done.
that.
Yeah, boom. At Dees1511, do the Vikes make a pick in the supplemental draft? Big cornerback from Virginia Tech, Adonis Alexander. Seems like a player Zim would love. I don't see them spending more draft picks on a DB.
No, they have 10 draft picks right now, and I think they want to go into 2019 with all 10 of those draft picks. And they are going to have to make a lot of difficult decisions, so I don't see them.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them put in a bid, but I don't think it'll
Like
be as
7th
high as-
rounder.
Yeah, I
Just
don't
like
think it'll be
Yota,
as high
whatever.
I think 3 defensive backs in the supplemental draft are
Yep.
supposed to be draftable. It's a good supplemental draft, guys. Good try.
Trivia question. Who's the last player selected in the supplemental draft?
It's not Josh Gordon, is it? No.
No.
I think it's an offensive lineman.
That's correct.
It's like a tackle, Cincinnati or something.
Cincinnati had was it the tackle from Cincy, or was
some
there
guy
a
named
running
Brown?
back from Cincy that went?
An offensive lineman named Brown?
That's a good-looking question. I'm going to buy time as I pull up this page because I typed in the wrong thing. Isaiah Battle, 2015.
Oh, Isaiah
tackle for the
Battle.
Rams.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
It's actually interesting. 43 players have been selected in supplemental draft. You look through, like half of them are they didn't file the paperwork on time, which like it's baloney. But yeah.
The other half, like, were told late by the NCAA about whether or not they'd be able to play.
Yeah. At TK took ASU. When will Barr and Diggs be extended? Never. Never, ever.
Boo.
Chief and Ho, if the NFL was a global game and had a World Cup, could you support a USA team that had Rodgers at quarterback? This is, in effect, what I have to do as an Arsenal fan with Harry Kane. Ooh, Harry Kane.
Yeah, I definitely
a Spurs player as the England captain.
I definitely can.
I know who Harry Kane is.
Yeah, I actually had to think about it. I thought this was a really good question. I had to think about it, but I already thought about it, and yes.
Who would it be? Who would be the quarterback?
It would be Aaron Rodgers.
It would be Aaron Rodgers.
Not Brady?
No. At his age,
see it,
no.
but it'd be Aaron
Right now, you would take Brady over Rodgers.
No. I mean, I could see it being Brady,
Teddy
but I would,
jerks.
I think
Teddy jerks.
it makes more sense for it to be Rodgers.
Let's say that American-style football was in the next Summer Olympics. I think you would have to be like some sort of ambassador to grow the game. Like, drag Peyton Manning out. Don't even care. Like, whatever. Like, he'll be bad. Except,
it wouldn't matter, would it? Yeah.
like, they'll just hand the ball off to Darius Geis, like, 15 times, and then they'll just win by 30 against Saigon. That's not a nation. Singapore, whatever.
Japan and Mexico probably would have the best international football teams.
Oh, Japan because of the sumo wrestlers?
No, because the International Football Federation, I think Japan's won it a couple of times.
Yeah.
So,
or what about China? I mean, they've got a developmental league over there. I think Ed Wang is running it. It's kind of funny.
Mother Russia.
all I know is that the IFAF Championship often features Japan. I guess they must really like the game. Maybe because of that one anime. I don't know.
You have to specify. I mean, there's a couple of them.
Not on American
There's at least
football.
4. All right, last one at the CJ Conger. Way too early scheduled prediction. Go. I say 12-4 win division all the way to Super Bowl loss.
Isn't 11? 11 seems to be the number I hear over and over again. It's a tough schedule.
Well, that's near the over. Isn't the over under like 10.5?
I think it's 10.5. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say there's gonna be some mid-season drama. A couple injuries, perhaps. Hopefully not, but knock on wood. Vikings sneak into the playoffs at 9-7.
At what position?
Doesn't matter. And it's the Vikings, we know, and become that hot 9-7 6 seed that just goes in and lays waste to the bracket.
Does sorry, going back to the previous question, does Adrian Peterson play on the USA team? Like, is that his last hurrah?
No, he'd probably do that thing where they can't make the USA team. This happens in women's basketball. Then they just claim citizenship for another nation. So all of a sudden,
oh my God, he would. He would play for like Moldova.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson is Dutch. He's in.
It's no quarterback, just direct snaps to him every play.
Probably like it that way. All right, what's coming up from you guys? What are you working on? Better be something cool.
I'm probably gonna write that Daniil Hunter piece about what the numbers tell us about what to expect.
Yeah.
We got some daily vids coming up.
Yeah, eventually one day.
You ready for that?
I'm ready.
I'm good.
I'm excited.
Good.
Yeah, zone coverage, come out video, the talking, see? We got the camera. Yanka, about yourself?
Yeah, I'm working on this whole video thing, but I'm waiting for my partner to
you gotta get better at communicating.
Ever text me back.
You gotta get better at communicating.
Yeah. It's everyone but Arif.
Tom,
I'm on my phone all the time.
I will be at Summer League with Dane Moore, so you can look forward to our coverage there, and then make sure to check out Brandon on the Twins.
Yeah, do that up. Also,
he's in Chicago, Milwaukee. So, yeah.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he's going to Wrigley Field, and so no Sox, but he's going to Wrigley Field and Miller Park.
He's a traveling man.
Traveling man.
Road. Hitting up those Hilton Rewards points.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. Give the show a follow on Twitter at Zone Coverage MN. Subscribe, iTunes, Stitcher, Radio. Let's start rolling. Oh, we should talk about programming. So next week, 4th of July is on Wednesday. What do you guys want to do? We can run a best of.
Ooh, best of.
Or we could run a best of.
Who's going to dice those up?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds good.
Hey, week off vacation.
Wow, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, we didn't even take Christmas off. We're like Bob Cratchit up in here.
No big deal.
But that's how we do.
Thanks, Tom.
That's how dedicated we are.
Yeah, boys.
Also, zonecoverage.com/machine. But for Luke and Reef and Yinka and Tom, I'm Andy saying, sorry, bye. Listen, everyone.